All right, so we're going to look at Animal Kingdom, um, and I'm going to break this into two parts because it's going to be there's quite a bit of information on each slide, and I want to be able to give you time to get all that information down. And what I'm going to do as the slides are going, I'm going to talk about different aspects of the animal, um, but you want to make sure that you get everything from the left-hand slide. Basically, put all the major features of each phylum. So uh, I put all the major features, and I put some examples of organisms from that phylum. And I'm just going to talk over those slides. Definitely make sure you get all the information from the left-hand side of each slide. Okay, so let's jump into it. The most simple animal type is the name of the phylum is Porifera, and what Porifera are sponges. So they're very simple organisms. They're filter feeders that live in the ocean or fresh water, and basically they're kind of just a glob of cells. They, if you look on the right-hand side, you're going to see kind of looks. You can see how they feed, but basically they have these cells that propel food in, and then they filter out food, and then that goes into the cells, and that's how they feed. Um, so they have different organization in the cells, but they don't have like a separate organ systems like a heart or lungs or anything like that. And you can read the rest of the things on the left-hand side. You have both asexual and sexual reproduction. And the collagen or the skeleton is made up of collagen and spicule. So collagen is the same stuff that's in your fingernails and in your hair. It's just a protein, and then spicules are kind of like a hard structure that give some support for the sponge. And then for any of these slides, if I'm going too fast, just pause it and make sure you get down all the info. You don't have to write it word for word. You can paraphrase it. Just make sure that you know what it is that you've written. Okay, so next slide is Cnidaria. Their common ancestor was Eumatozoa. Some of the characteristics for cnidarians are they have stinging cells called nematocysts. So that's going to be typical if you think of a jellyfish, which is a type of cnidarian. It's got tentacles hanging down with stinging cells. If you stepped on a jellyfish, you get stung by the nematocysts on that jellyfish. They have radial symmetry. So that's, if you think back to last class, that's when we talked about you could divide it in many different ways and you get a mirror image half. They have two different stages. If you look at the left, this top here is a polyp stage. It kind of looks like a vase with the tentacles coming out the top. And then you have a medusa stage where you've got this rounded part, rounded body, and then you've got the stinging cells hanging down. Okay, so make sure you get everything on the left, and we'll move on to the next slide. Next slide is Platyhelmenthes. This is all different types of flatworms. They are the first ones that are now bilaterally symmetrical. So that's going to be a little bit more complex body plan. They have 3 layers of tissues with organs and organelles. So again, we're getting a little bit more complex in the body structure. There's no internal cavity. And it's just got a blind gut. So they have a mouth to take food in and kind of filter nutrients that they need, but that's it. And have like a bit of a nervous system heading from the anterior to posterior ends, or from the head to the tail. And they can do mostly sexual reproduction. And they feed on other animals and on smaller life forms. And an example of this would be a tapeworm. So a tapeworm lives in some other organism's stomach and is able to pull nutrients out from that organism's, like when the organism eats, it feeds off that food. Okay, now we're just going to be talking about this is not a phylum, it's just a um, development within organisms as they're getting more complex. And this is called uh, pseudocolomate. So you want to write down the top part, pseudocolomate. And all pseudocolomates are invertebrates with a three-layered body. They have a fluid-filled body cavity called a pseudocolum between the endoderm and the mesoderm. And in the pseudocolum can be contracted or contrasted with the column of mollusks and annelid worms. So it's like a simple precursor to more complex organisms that are going to come later, um, all the way into humans and other vertebrates. We'll kind of have a little bit more complex system than these pseudocolomates. Okay, now we got it's a pretty creepy group of, or creepy phylum. It's Nematoda. This is roundworms. So heartworm and hookworm are examples of nematodes. They're bilaterally symmetrical. They have more than two cell layers, tissues and organs. They have like a complete opening, so mouth to gut to anus to send food through their body, and has a body covering called a cuticle. They don't have a circulatory system yet. So as far as like moving blood throughout their body, they don't have a circulatory system, um, and they have sexual reproduction. Okay, so I talked about a body development called the pseudocolum. Then we're going to talk about colomates and protostome development. So colum, the function of it is can absorb shock or provide a hydrostatic skeleton. So that's kind of like an open area within the body cavity. It allows muscles to grow independently off of the body wall. And then protostome development is just when we're looking at the very first cell. So we're looking at the first few cells developing after fertilization. Um, these animals develop mouth first. So um, right at the beginning, this opening here in these cells, later as it gets more complex, this would be the mouth of the organism. Next group is arthropods, so bilaterally symmetrical again. This is your insects, crustaceans, and spiders. They have jointed legs, body divided into sections. So they start to have a little bit of a nervous system with a simple brain and nerve cells coming off that. Um, the neurons at the anterior end, the head end of the organism. Um, by having that bilateral symmetry, it allows for there to be an end would be a head that has nerves or bundles of nerves, and then a tail end. They have a respiratory system with trachea and spiracles. So spiracles are kind of just openings in the side. If you looked at a grasshopper, it's got spiracles in the side of its body to pull in oxygen. And they have an open circulatory system with a simple heart, one or more arteries, and no veins in most cases. So it's really simple circulatory system. And they normally undergo sexual reproduction. And then we have annelids. Annelids are, example of it would be an earthworm. They have a long cylindrical body, bilaterally symmetrical, segmented internally and externally, which allows them to specialize different body areas for different tasks. They have nervous system, digestive system, and a closed circulatory system. And because they have a colon, they have that hydrostatic skeleton, helps absorb shock in the little body opening in the body cavity.